All right, Dan, it's going to be a good one today. We're going to talk about the video game crash in 1983, also known as the time gaming almost rage quit in real life.
Yeah, you mean when everyone went from this is the future to maybe I'll just go outside?
Exactly. Early 80s, gaming is everywhere. Arcades are booming, home consoles are the must-have thing, and it feels like nothing can stop it.
Yeah, every company in their NAM was making a console at that point, though.
Yeah, too many consoles, too many games, and absolutely zero quality control.
Oh, yeah, the golden age of this will do, just ship it.
Yeah, exactly. You've got companies rushing games out the door in weeks, no polish, no testing, just vibes. I'm looking at you, E.T. Made in 5 weeks and so confusing, it made people question the very reality.
And somehow they made millions of cartridges. Confidence is key, I suppose.
And it wasn't alone. Atari pumping out cartridges like there were no tomorrow.
Well, it turns out there almost wasn't.
Yeah. Retailers lost trust, developers disappeared, and a whole industry just collapsed in on itself.
So gaming metaphorically unplugged the console.
Yeah, pretty much. Billions wiped out, companies gone, arcades fading, looked like it was game over.
But then, like a hero entering on 1 HP.
Yeah, along comes Nintendo with the NES, quality control, tight releases, actual good games.
So what you're saying is, gaming hit rock bottom and then found a warp pipe.
Yep, that's exactly it. And the rest, as they say, is high score history.
Dan with a gaming flair, pixel dreams and worlds to share, joystick tales and button cues. Welcome to Gaming View.
Ladies and gentlemen, dust off your cartridges, bury your expectations in the desert, and prepare for a deep dive into a time when video games went from booming to boom to gone. Because joining me today is a man who survived the great gaming apocalypse of 1983, mostly because he was about 6 or 7, is my co-host for this podcast, my good friend who is the human equivalent of a quality seal that actually means something. It's Dan H. How you doing, Dan?
What a beautiful intro. Thank you very much, Dan. I'm very good. I'm very relaxed. I just got back off a mini break. I'm all right. I chilled.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I've come back off a mini break so much, I haven't even looked at the episode. So strap in, people.
Well, neither have I, but I think we've pretty much summed it up in the intro skit.
Yeah.
So if you just
Are we done? Are we done? Okay.
Yeah, so we will get on to talking about things. We are going to talk about the video game crash, and I just want to turn. Look, I've got a little friend over my shoulder. Look,
I've got one as well, but I'm not even going to try and turn it because it's really annoying. I'll do it in edit.
But yeah, so we're recording this kind of over the Easter bank holiday, so you've had a nice little getaway. You literally got back about a couple of hours ago, I think, didn't you?
I did. Yes, yeah, it was very nice. Just in country, nowhere special, but it was special. It's nice. It was, time away with the kids and the dog, and I have the very distinction of completing a game whilst travelling along the A14, which I've never done. Weirdly, I've never completed a game while travelling on an A road.
But just for anyone, all the lawyers listening, I'm sure you were the passenger in the car.
I was the passenger. I should point out. Yeah, well done, Dan. Yeah. I was definitely. Yeah. It wasn't real life GTA. I wasn't. Yeah, no. I was not driving.
All you lawyers, you can sit down now. Stop reaching for the phone.
All those lawyers who watch this show, none of them.
Oh dear. Yeah. No, I've eaten too much chocolate. I am. Although.
Do you do Easter eggs? Did you have an Easter egg?
No, I got one through work, but the wife also got me. No, it wasn't an Easter egg as such, but it was the jammy wheel from one of the supermarkets, cheaper supermarkets. Is it Aldi, I think? So it's like their knockoff biscuit of jammy Dodger. Sorry, it's their interpretation of the jammy Dodger.
That's not the confused face and pulling. You said, no, I got one through work. What? Hang on a minute. You got an Easter egg through work?
Yeah.
Sorry, you're saying that like that's a normal practice, like most workplaces give people Easter eggs. Was it a little cream egg or something?
No, it was, what one was it? A Malteser egg.
Oh my God, I'm working for the wrong company.
But the scandal is, right, and I've seen this over social media. I mean, of all the things we're going to talk about today, this is the biggest scandal. Have you seen, they've basically, the Easter eggs have gone slimline in this country.
Yes, they have, yeah.
They used to be round, and now they're like, kind of like that.
My daughter's complained at me. So they're different from last year. And one of them was ever so slightly smaller than the other one. So that caused merry howl. It's just chocolate. It's just chocolate. I had a Sainsbury's one. I had a little bit posher supermarket one than you. And it was a dark mint chocolate one. It's the only dark mint chocolate egg I could find. So I had that one. I had to buy it myself as well. Should we move on from Easter? Let's do video games.
Easter was last week. The only other thing I want to say, because I was literally just watching some TV before I come on, it's really funny at the moment because I'm binge watching 2 shows, but those shows are Malcolm in the Middle, because I've not seen that, and Breaking Bad, because I want to see Better Call Saul. But I've got Bryan Cranston playing the father. But
is it like an evolution? Like an evolution of Bryan Cranston?
It's very confusing when you're watching it. But look, we're not here to talk about TV unless we might do a spin-off viewing views. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah, it works.
I like that. Yeah,
let's write it down.
Stay tuned.
Right. Dan, first things first, as always, what have you been playing? Whether it's on the motorway or not.
I have. Well, let's talk about the motorway game. So the motorway game, I was looking for something to play on the side while I was playing. I was reading an article the other day that described that when playing an open world game, you should only play one big open world game at a time, and you shouldn't leave it too long between sessions. Otherwise, I'm playing it as I think you just forget the button layout, and on Crimson Desert, that's absolutely true. But while I was away, I took the Asus ROG out for a spin, and I have to say, it performed beautifully. It was brilliant. I never had any problems with it. And I picked up Planet of Lana, which I'd looked at a few years ago when it came out, and it's on Game Pass. And I thought I'll give that a bash. Nice little platformer. It's what's that game that's very black and white in the void corner? Inside? Is it Inside?
Limbo.
One of those.
Yeah, Inside was the sequel. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, one of those. It's very like that, but very different. So it's very bright and colourful in terms of aesthetics, but it's very similar in terms of your kind of, there's no combat or anything. It's all puzzle solving, and you've got this little alien to help you and stuff. I really enjoyed it. Not normally my type of game, but I played it right through to the end. I think I'd got to maybe 2 chapters from the end when I settled into the car for a 2.5 hour journey. And I thought, I'll stick that on. So, yeah, I finished it while I was on an A road in Britain. You're welcome, people. It can be done. And, I really enjoyed it. I think it's, the controls are brilliant. I think it's a beautiful looking game. The one thing I think I probably missed out on, because I had the volume down because the missus was driving and I didn't want to have the volume up and annoy people. So I think I probably missed out on some of the emotional beats at the end, because certain things happen, the music and the sound all adds to that. So I think I probably missed out on some of that, but I actually really enjoyed the game. It was only maybe 5 or 6 hours. Sequel's out, so I might pick that up and give that a spin now as well. But yeah, so I played that. That was like I said, really enjoyed it. I had a good old go at Slay the Spire 2 while I was away as well, because that's my other little you can have 10 minutes of fun on. And I did some, my little side game, and I tried out some other characters. I still stuck with the silent. But interestingly, I managed to get into so the silent can use a card that's called, if you pick it up, it's called Assassination. And basically it does 13 points of damage, but adds, it stacks vulnerability and weakness on enemies as well. And it's a 0 cost card. And the developers, Metacritic of Slay the Spire 2 have admitted that some 0 cost cards are a bit OP. This one in particular, because I combined it with a skill that I picked up very early in the game, called Clone, which allows you to, when you stop at a rest site, you can clone a card. So I basically cloned this card. So every card I had, because it's called an innate card, which means it spawns right at the start of your very first go when you enter a room. So I just had stacks of them, and I was just playing them continually. So I managed to kind of spam the game and just got right through to the end and killed everything. And I'd not finished the run with the silence, so I did that and finished my first run on that, and then started on a different one. I started with the defect now. So, but really enjoying it. It's just such a good game, and they've put so much love into it, and it's in early access still, so they're still tweaking it and changing it. But also, I think it was. I don't think it's in your news, is it? But it's the biggest selling game on Steam, beating Crimson Desert and Marathon and some other biggies this month as well. So, good job to the team at Metacritic. Yeah, great job. And then I just, in between my holiday, so last week and just today when I got back for a couple of hours, I had another go at Crimson Desert, and I love that world. I think, it's brilliant. They patched it again this weekend, Dan. They added some quality of life stuff, put in some old movement control system that people initially liked, but then they'd patched, so you've now got choices. They've made some of the layouts a bit more cohesive and sensible, and they've added in the ability to not show your helmet. So there you go. So I'm going to leave it at that, if you choose to. But they've given you options, so you can not show it while in combat. You can not show it all the time. So you can not show it in cutscenes, but have it on the rest of the time. We can just have it off. All the time. Anyway, I'm going to stop making innuendos. I've been watching Scrubs. I'm sounding like Todd now. Innuendo high five. Crimson Desert, love it. Brilliant.
No, really good. And I saw you sent an article to me, didn't you, saying that what was the gist of that? Like, basically, you have to, the more you play it, the better it gets. Almost like you have to put a certain amount of time in, was it?
Yeah, it was one of the developers in another big game, and he basically said, look, with games like this, they are slow burn at the start for a reason, because we are so used to as gamers, being instantly fed gratification. And so when a game comes along like this, where actually you have to put the effort in up front, for maybe 30, 40 hours, which is sometimes either the length of or double the length of a normal game these days. People aren't used to it, and therefore like, well, I can't be bothered. And actually what you start seeing is the stuff that I'm starting to see now. We joked last week in our last episode about, you don't get a barber until you're like 50 hours in. I still haven't got him. I'm 30, 40 hours in, right? But that's the beauty of this game. You keep building your base, your camp, you keep exploring, you keep introducing new mechanics. And I love that. And it's glorious the way that world is opening up. I heard a criticism, or read a criticism earlier today. Someone was saying the biggest problem it's got, though, is once you've done that because you liberate certain zones and they become more friendly, is you end up almost not having much to do. And he said he played for like 3 hours or something and only had 2 fights because it had become so passive. And I get that. But while I'm in it and while I'm playing the main campaign and stuff, I'm just really enjoying it. So I think the guy, I can't remember which guy it was. I'll have to link it at the bottom, but I think he's absolutely right. I think it is one of those games. The more you explore, the more you get into it, the more rewarding it is as you go on. And that's what I'm finding. So loving it. Good. How about you?
So I'll start with Stellar Blade. I won't talk massively about it because we mentioned it last week, but really enjoying this. So I'm about 20 hours in and I still think I'm about a third to probably about halfway into it. Okay. All I want to say is it's really good at mixing up the gameplay. Like there'll be certain sections you go in where you can't use your melee weapons. You have to use your gun, your ranged weapon. There's a couple of side missions where it's almost like because the game's third person, where it becomes almost like a shooting range where you've got a few walls that you can jump between and you've got enemies coming in at you from the back of the screen towards you. You've got to clear them all out before the time runs out. And it kind of just changes things up every now and then. I've managed to open up all the skill trees now, so you get various powers, so you can craft your character that way. And the funny thing, we talk about games doing things differently. I mentioned last week about the bulletin boards, and you pick up a load of missions, and I was thinking, where are they? Where do I have to literally go hunt them out? Because most missions get picked up on the map. There's a hub world you open up later, so it's only later on in the game. I opened up the map, and you just see all these points dotted around it. Right. So you get them early on in the game, but you can't do them till you've got to that bit. So that's slightly.
And did you go into all of them? Was it like?
Not yet. I got to that last night and I thought that's where I'm saving it and coming back to it. But really, really good. So as I said, about 20 hours in and the story has just taken its kind of turn. So I know what the game's about now. So I'm looking forward to hitting the main quest as well. So really good. Enjoying that. I'll do this one next. I finished Lego Voyagers with our friend Joey of the Game Club Pod. So he messaged me and he said, do you want to finish it? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And
I didn't know you'd been playing it, to be honest.
I think it was it was probably a couple of months ago I mentioned it because we played it. We'd started it. He said, do you want to play it? So I said, yeah. And then we didn't play it again. And I thought, right, we're never going to finish it. And then he messaged me the other night, said, do you fancy finishing it? And I said, yeah, all right, let's do it. And
is this the one with the red and blue brick?
Blue.
Is it red and blue?
Yeah. So we had about an hour left to do, it turns out. And the end bit, sort of like the last hour, is probably, for me, the best bit of the whole game. And I know, you know, we mentioned them a lot as well, the TCGS chaps. I remember when they were talking about it, said that the end is quite poignant, of the game. And it's funny, for a game where there isn't that much necessarily emotion expressed through it, that last sort of 5-10 minutes is actually it is.
Really?
There's a bit of emotion in there, so I'm not going to say anything.
I do want to play it with that. I do want to play it with the kids, actually. I have a question there. How comes you've managed to finish that and you and I still haven't finished Split Fiction?
I'm waiting. Because Arc Raiders come along. Arc Raiders come. Well, it is your fault because you own the game. I've got the friends pass.
Oh yeah,
no, but Arc Raiders come along, and that's all.
It did. Yeah,
you only had eyes for that.
Screw those guys.
Yeah. But do you know, the side story of finishing that was, so, you know, when we played Split Fiction, I sometimes have issues with certain sections, generally like flying and stuff like that and driving.
Any of it, to be fair.
There's a bit in this game where the two of you are on a boat. One of you does the acceleration like forward and reverse, so the other does the steering. And I was doing the steering and it was just going wrong all the time, right? And I was really struggling. I found out the other night playing the other game on my list that the gamepad I was using had massive stick drift, which has come from out of nowhere. Yeah, because I was playing another game and something kept appearing on the screen. I thought, what's that? Then I went into the map on that and the cursor just kept going up to the top of the screen. So, yeah.
Was this on Xbox or on
Xbox, yeah.
Steam Deck?
No,
on
Xbox.
The Xbox. Oh, yeah, your Xbox gamepad. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's annoying. So Lego Voyagers, I recommend if, you know, and like I said, it's like Split Fiction where one of you just has to own it, the other's got the friends pass. And then, when was it? It was yesterday, actually, at time of recording. I saw Xbox reduce the price of the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. So I've picked that up. And my God, I'm loving it. I've spent more time at the moment watching the documentaries in which...
Right.
I've learned so many fun and cool little bits. So there's definitely going to be an episode, I think, coming up on Mortal Kombat. But I've mainly played the arcade version of the first game. So I've been playing that. But you get that. And I think you get the SNES, the Mega Drive. I think you get the Game Boy version as well of that. And then you get 2, 3, I think 4, along with another game. So there's a lot of games in there, albeit different versions of them. You know me, I love the team at Digital Eclipse, I love when they put these packages together, and I think the documentary on this and the timeline thing is probably the best one so far, I think. So
nice.
Yeah, really good, really cool.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat.
Finish him.
Just a side note, the funny thing on that is there's about 3 people who believe they come up with changing the C to a K for combat. So it's funny hearing 3 of them say that it was their idea.
It's just, I don't know why, but it's very timely. I think the new movie is out next week.
I think it is.
Is it next week? I think it's cinema. Yeah, Mortal Kombat 2.
So maybe we should see that and do an episode.
Yeah, I can wait for that on pay-per-view.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat, which I'd been keeping an eye on for a long time. And the last game I've been playing, this is all on the Xbox other than Stellar Blade. This was Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly remake.
Got that. Did you buy that physical?
No, digital. I think you can only get that digital on the Xbox at least. I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's a really spooky game. The creep factor is really there.
Yeah, the original was.
Yeah, I struggled. So have you played this game? Have you played
the original?
Yeah,
I haven't played the sequel. Yeah,
I've struggled a bit with it until it clicked. Now, people I've seen have said that the combat is harder in the remake. They've made the combat a bit harder. Okay. But there's a moment where I kind of looked and I sat back and I looked at one of these, 10 things you need to know before you start playing the game. And then a couple of things clicked, and I've been playing it yesterday and today, and I've had so much more fun with it. The combat is weird when you talk about combat because it's all through a camera, but you've got the different filters, the different films.
That's right, yeah.
Brilliant. Really, really clever. Really, like I said, really spooky. And kind of I'm getting to the cool bit in the story in that one as well. So I'm
nice.
just over halfway, I think.
I was going to pick that up on day one, but I just had so much. Well, Crimson Desert, they took my life basically. This is my excuse. So I think what I'll do is I'll wait for it to come down in price. I might pick out what would be on Game Pass, I imagine, at some point with that game. I think Resident Evil 7's just come back on Game Pass this week.
Yeah.
Might have to go through that again. So I think I'll wait for that because it got replaced coming up. So that's end of next week, I think. So that'll be the next side game I think I play alongside Crimson Desert when I get the chance. So, although back to the grind tomorrow. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm just waiting for Resident Evil 9 to hit the sweet spot price wise for me. So in the meantime, I thought Fatal Frame 2 would be good, and no regrets. Like I said, really good, really atmospheric. So
good, man.
have a look at that. So. Right, Dan.
It's a nice little collection.
It is eclectic. I like that. It's very different. I mean, throw Lego in with Mortal Kombat and Fatal Frame.
Lego Mortal Kombat.
Lego.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go. Make it happen, people. Right. News. I think
news. Is there something before the news?
Housekeeping, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, housekeeping should have been really before that. The last section as well. Go on, Dan.
I'm new to the notes. I'm just looking at it.
Oh, did I put it in the notes as well?
You did.
Yeah, Dan. It's time for housekeeping, right? So, would you do it because you do it better?
I will. I'm happily. I've had a break. People, if you do like what you're hearing, do want to see more of it, do want to see Dan's lovely shorts that he does, or any of the above, or any of the below, please do like and subscribe. It doesn't mean a lot to you, but it means a lot to us, and we really appreciate your support. And keep the comments coming in because there have been a few of them, and we love them. So please, crack on.
We had a lot on last week's one, especially about the AI breaking out of its area.
Well, as long as it was up on YouTube, yeah. But,
which we'll come on to. So, yeah, please do leave us comments and push the like button and subscribe, as Dan said so beautifully. Right, can I do news now?
Please.
Yeah. Right, so we've added a new one. This wasn't on the list, but this story is kind of broke overnight as we're recording, and it started being reported by outlets. So I thought, let's stick it on. So this affected our good old channel as well, our third channel. So
it did.
Some of you eagle-eyed people, if you're constantly looking at our channel, which I know some people surely do. So our Resident Evil celebration disappeared for about 36 hours, 48 hours, a couple of days, because of a copyright claim. Now, I was getting ready to message you, but I didn't want to because you're on holiday, so I was looking to see what's going on because...
I never take a break from the pod, Dan. Just from real life.
You don't. Because, we've had in the past, you get a couple of things. It says it's only going to be a problem if you're monetized, which I don't think there's any danger of that at the moment.
It's fine.
But all of a sudden I saw it's got taken down. I thought, what's happened here? And then I had a look and it was a television channel. And so it's called, so when you're looking at it, it's LA7. So I think they pronounce that La Sette.
Thanks. You should take up Italian, mate.
I should try it, yeah. I feel like I could be a natural. But the weirdest thing about this, right, is not that, Dan stole copyrighted material for the video. I mean...
it's a bit harsh.
No, I'm just... The way I felt last night...
It's like, that's unusual. It's not unusual for Dan to steal material.
No.
It's called a fair use policy,
you
people.
You interrupted. That wasn't the unusual bit.
Please continue.
No, what unusual bit is so... Because I messaged you and you said, but I took that. So this related to the Nvidia DLSS 5 footage. And you said, but I took that from the Nvidia website. And I thought, well, I'll double check. And I said, no, it's definitely that. So you submitted a dispute anyway, didn't you? You just said, let's do that.
I did, yeah.
I then, just as I'm going to bed last night, I see it break on Twitter. So basically what had happened was an Italian TV channel took that footage, used that footage as well, for a podcast, uploaded it. And what I'm not entirely sure is whether YouTube just assumed it or they claimed the footage as theirs. Maybe they were claiming their podcast as theirs. But what that then caused was for any video that had that in, it put a copyright against it. Blocked us in 246 countries, right?
Yes.
But the most hilarious thing of all is it also blocked it from Nvidia's official channel.
Yes, it did. Nvidia weren't actually allowed to use their own video, which is brilliant. YouTube strikes again. They're so good. They're so good.
Yeah, I mean, so YouTube, they have what they've said in. So I'm looking at Kotaku's website. They said obviously this is a pretty cut and dry case of copyright claim abuse, which is why YouTube's official response is all the more baffling. They have said to clarify, a content ID claim is automatically generated when your content matches another vid in our content ID system. Since you already submitted a dispute, the next step is to wait for the claimant to respond within 30 days. So what they're saying is it feels like whether they incorrectly and it got swept in, or they intentionally claimed all the footage in that as theirs, it then put the strike against everyone. Now, that this happens, and we had another one a few months back, didn't we? It was a German channel.
We did, yeah.
Came something, you put the dispute and straight away it gets overturned. But my issue with this is, it just feels so unfair, doesn't it? Because our video, and not just ours, this is content creators around the world.
Anyone, yeah.
It gets taken down straight away. All right?
Yeah.
You dispute it, knowing full well that you're right to use it, but it could take up to 30 days for them to review it. And so our video has to potentially be down. Now, look, in a big scheme of things, it was towards the end of the week. Did it really hurt us? Possibly not, but our video disappeared. And if that was at the start of the week and it took a week for them to do it, that's how, our next episode is out. And
it's mad, right? It's mad. I mean, what baffles me is how they even do that. So you said you just said that YouTube's response was broadly, yeah, but if it matches another video, it's going to happen. Kind of, maybe I'm paraphrasing, but it matched the original video that went up long before Last Evans went up. So surely Last Evans should have got taken down if it matched Nvidia. I don't know how it works. I think their algorithm is bollocks, to be honest. I mean, we've had so many problems in the past with it. It just feels a bit nonsense. But yeah, one load of rubbish.
Yes, so
fixed though.
Yeah, no, it's fixed and it is back up there. So if you haven't, go see it. It's a very good episode. I think from my understanding, so YouTube have got something called Content ID, and that's where you claim the copyright, and it feels like they went in and claimed it. Now, the bizarre thing is, I think, like you were saying, our video went up. I'm just having a look. So ours went up on the 31st of March. They did the copyright claim on the 4th, or they claimed ownership on the 4th. So ours was up, 5 days before they did it. So
or anything happened.
So maybe we should just claim content ID thing on everything.
I just do it all the time. Yeah, see how many people get blocked. God, you imagine.
That was the most amusing thing though, where Nvidia's website channel, it got blocked on their own. I mean, brilliant. Somebody's having words there. Somebody
will be having words. Yeah. Although maybe they won't. Due to the response to that DLSS5 video, maybe they won't be able to go, it's probably for the best. Do you think you'll get away if somebody else owns it?
Just think how many people also use that, and how many videos would have been. Somebody at YouTube had a full
in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, I would have thought, because there'd have been a lot of commentary on that and a lot of creators using that.
Their ticket system probably got flooded this morning on YouTube, didn't it?
Exploded.
Yeah.
Lucky we were at the front of it.
Yeah. Right. Next story is Take-Two. So Take-Two Interactive, who are the parent company of Rockstar Games, and this was, as of a couple of days ago, reportedly laid off its AI team, including its head of AI. So
I owe them an apology, Dan.
Go on.
In our video last week, I made a joke when you said about a game, embracing AI, I jokingly coughed GTA 6. Clearly not. It's at the bottom of their priority list by the looks of it.
Yeah, Take-Two boss Strauss Zelnick has previously stated, and this is from Eurogamer.net, that AI is incapable of creativity of its own, but in his strongest message yet, that Take-Two's approach to AI bucks an industry trend that's seen more and more studios pivot to AI tools, most recently at the cost of human translators and human-made in-game artwork. It's truly disappointing that I have to share with you that my time with T2 and that of my team has come to an end. I will take the time in a week or two to make a more reflective post on my time with Zynga and Take-Two. But for right now, I would appreciate your help in finding these awesome, talented folks new positions. So, yeah, I mean, a couple of things there. Again, as we always say, look, good luck to people that have been affected in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's interesting that it feels like they're probably the biggest company at the moment to really sort of take that stand and say that AI is not that important to them.
Yeah, I mean, the game industry's been around for a long, long time, as we'll find out with its, foibles. Without the heavy use of AI, and I know we had, some comments on our episode where we talk about AI and, what it brings to the industry or doesn't bring. But, I've said all along, you can't have art without the artists, so, I think it's one thing it does do very poorly. It's all right, making a joke, YouTube thumbnail, whatever, every now and again with it is fine, but actually, employing people who create video games or, displacing people from their job or, from their income, it's a terrible thing. And what's ironic here is you've got a place where the company is saying, I don't want to use AI, and they're still displacing people from not using AI.
Yeah.
So, you can't win. Do you know what I mean? You're either, I don't know. It sucks. Yeah. And as you said, look, good luck to the guys. I hope they do find something. AI has its place. Clearly not in Take-Two's priority list of video gaming though.
Yeah. So, yep. So that's that story. And as I say, good luck to the people affected there. The next story I found interesting, and we have discussed this. I think we discussed this a number of times on the pod, but also sort of privately. So this is from the team over at PC Gamer, and the headline is, "Any update is a bonus, not a right. Peak devs snap back at ungrateful players demanding more updates. Neither us or Aggro Crab are a live service studios." So the subheading there is, how much are you entitled to in an $8 game? Now, basically, the story of this. So Peak, I've not played it, but it was one of the big successes of last year, right?
Yeah.
It got really successful, hit hundreds of thousands of players playing it, and since then the game has gone through some updates and changes, with a recent update adding a bunch of custom settings, including an option to turn on grapple mode, alongside an April Fool's update. Now, people have kind of complained at it because it says here, apparently not even this new grapple mode is enough for some players. So another quote here is, "Y'all are mad at Landfall for not releasing a game. I'm mad at Landfall for their lazy dev cycle for Peak, when they could be doing so much more with it, considering they're ending development of it this year," one player says. Now, the game has had 3 major updates, over 30 patches, 9 hotfixes, and 4 minor updates. And it's a game that's been out for less than a year, costs $8, and has been regularly on discount, and was made by 2 non-live service studios just trying to have a bit of fun. Peak has had so many updates, though, one of the developers at Landfall replied, "Neither us or Aggro Crab are live service studios. Any update is a bonus, not a right. We just made a huge update for customizing runs, but full customization is a big ask." And, the article goes on, but yeah, it was just, what's your initial reaction to that?
I think if you take update as I'm taking update, which is, customization, new features, I think he's right. He's bang on, right? I mean, if you're releasing a complete game, and again, this expectation we have now as gamers that something's going to be added all the time. We've gone from, I'm going to say it, Dan, and we've gone from horse armor to an expectation of DLC or customization or some updates or free this, free that, without, because we've been attuned to this by studios doing what they will, and what they have done. And in fairness, probably some of the bigger studios are more guilty. This Ubisoft and people like that who kind of go, "Oh, just have this free thing," and who've got teams of, hundreds of people being able to do this stuff. So, he's not wrong. An update isn't a right. Right? You're not owed anything once you've paid, you're not owed anything free once you've paid $8 or even $40 for a game, right? They've spent hard graft creating this world or these worlds, for you to go and play in. And if that's the complete game, that's the complete game, right? If you buy Monopoly, right, you don't write to Hasbro and go, well, I've finished Monopoly now. We had a game. I've done it. Can I have some more streets? Can I have some more houses? Can I have some, right? You buy a complete game. It's the same thing. Now, if you're taking update to mean patches and fixes for broken shit, then I think you are entitled to that, right? Because if, in the same analogy, if I buy Monopoly and half the boards or half of the pieces are missing, I want those pieces. That's my patch, right? So it depends how you take it. I'm taking it to mean updates as in, content or customizations or features or things like that. I think there are studios that will do it, right? And then that's what early access is for, in my mind, right? If you're going to release a game in early access and then go, oh, we're adding this bit or adding something like this, like Crimson Desert did, like Slay the Spire are doing, like other games like Moonlighter 2, they're adding more stuff in based on feedback. Perfect, right? But they're expecting that and they've set their teams up to do that. But if you're releasing a complete game and you're going, right, anything you get is a bonus. So I'm totally on board with it. Totally on board with it. As long as update means what he means and not the patches and the break fixes and stuff.
And that's exactly it. Neither of us have played the game and I don't necessarily know what the updates are, but I agree with you. And I think, so in principle, nobody is owed more content unless it's sold as having a season pass, etc., or DLC. But I think the price does have a factor in this. It's an $8 game. You probably picked it up for $6, $5 on Steam. And again, if they've promised to release content, they should do that. And there's no assumption here that they haven't. They have done that and have overpromised, right? But what I'm saying is, I think for if you're paying $8 a game, are you really expecting it to be like an Ark Raiders where there's a monthly update and big expansion? Right. It's and the other thing is, and again, if they were to be asked to be paid for, people would be complaining, saying, "Oh, you're asking me to pay for this update as well." Now we've said before, look, we love gaming, and we keep saying gaming. You do you with gaming, but we have also said a number of times that gamers also can be quite fussy.
100%. 100%. And we're part of that crowd, by the way, right? This isn't an attack. This is just, you're absolutely right. I know we can be pain in the ass about things as well. We moan about shit. Yeah, it doesn't get fixed. But if it's an update, like you said, if you've promised it pre-release and you're buying it on the premise you're going to get something, all right, you probably have a duty of care to make sure it gets done. But if you're just releasing a complete game again, this is the game. And then people are bitching that, well, I didn't get my update. Well, what update? Do you get any update?
Yeah.
I want more.
What I would say though is at least it shows that people are digging your game, right? So look at the positive. Look at the positive. Oh,
Dan, you're a bright side kind of guy.
Glass is always half full. I just wish it was full. Right. Next story. The next story. This again, another good one. So it's kind of broke over the last few days that there's a Game Pass, because that's the easiest way to describe it. A Game Pass for indie games is coming out. So meet Indie Pass, a $6.99, so $6.99 a month subscription, launching with 70 titles. Now, it's exactly what it says on the tin. So it's going to be a new launcher, new subscription service, new launcher for just under $7 a month. It's going to go live on the 13th of April with the 70 titles. Now, the pitch behind it is, so this is Director of Growth, Jess Mitchell at indie.io. Is saying basically it's to publicize indie titles. They said, I think there's a quote here that if you don't make it big in the first month, it could take up to 12 months for your game to get noticed again. So it's a chance for people and players to discover titles they might not otherwise have heard of. Now, the interesting thing is, with regards to the financing, they have said so the aim is not to get every single possible game on the platform. There's options for kind of that sort of thing already. They really want to stick to the indie side of things, and they're going to pay developers on a revenue sharing basis. So this is the interesting thing. So it's based on how much time each user spends playing their game, right? We're going to be giving our developers analytics on how people are engaged with the game and then continue to work with them on it. If they want to bring additional catalog or in the event they aren't receiving the demand, we can be honest with them and upfront about that with them too, because ultimately we want consumers to find what they want and we want developers to feel like they're earning new eyeballs from the experience. So this is from gamesindustry.biz. They said they pressed Mitchell on how specifically developers will be compensated. So if a consumer spends $6.99 a month and plays 2 games during this time, are the creators going to be given roughly $3.50 each? Yes, it's an egalitarian model, she says. In the same way it's on the storefront, where that's where a consumer's money goes, is where the developers are going to see it. So, yeah, I mean, I could go into a lot more. It's a long article. Go see it, gamesindustry.biz. But yeah, the bottom line is a new indie game subscription service, which is going to be on a sort of finance sharing. So, views on that?
I like it. I think, we know, and we've spoken before about how small indie developers really struggle to get their titles seen on Steam, and it's not unless something goes viral that invariably you lose out. I mean, they've, I can't remember how many thousands of games a year that release on that platform. And that I'm not putting Steam down. I think it's an amazing platform, and I buy a lot of stuff off of it. But unless you do, inevitably you'll find it in a bundle somewhere on a site, Green Man Gaming or Instant Gaming or something like that, right? That's where you're going to find half of these indie titles, in a bundle that's cost you £6 or whatever for 20 titles, inevitably. So anything that can do something to increase people's awareness of some of these great indie titles. Yeah, as soon as I saw that and I saw what the title was, I hadn't looked at the article. I was like, do you know what? I might subscribe to that, because I do love picking up the odd indie game and having a go at it and see, because there's some crackers in there, right? So, and some of the ones that you've spoken about before, like Indica and things like that I haven't played, Despolita, all of these kind of games that you played, and then you go, oh, they're really, really good. You kind of go off, I think even something like Planet Alana would have been described as an indie game back in the day. Mm-hmm. Maybe still is. Yeah. Dave the Diver, all these sort of things. So, anything that has a chance to make those things shine, yeah, more power to them.
Yeah.
Like it.
One of the complaints I've seen about it is that it's another launcher. So people are saying, you've got Steam, you've got Epic.
Just get rid of the Epic one. Just get rid of the Epic one and just replace it with this. It'd be fine. I'll be happy.
Yeah,
Tim Sweeney don't need any more money.
No, I mean, I like what this is doing, and again, because it is indie games, it's it's trying to give the visibility to people. Look, just like us, our podcast, I would love for there to be a indie game podcast subscription service where we could get bundled on it so people could see us. Any sponsors out there, please let us know. Gaming
I think you might just had a brainstorm of an idea, Dan. Let's sort that one out.
Right, cut that out. Yeah. The thing that gets me is, because they liken it to Game Pass, and I don't think we should. It's just, like I said, it's the easy thing to do. It is, I've said myself that I sometimes play a game for 5 minutes and move on to the next, because I know I've not paid for it as such. So is there going to be a risk that maybe some games get played for 5 minutes because a new game comes out, for an indie game, big new game comes out, and then people move on to that, and the developers of the first one get like 2% of the pie.
Depends on the indie game, Dan. I guess if you look at it like that, you could have had 5 games of Time Flies in that time. So, it's not, it depends on the game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, some of them only last 5 minutes,
But look,
I don't know. Are you getting value for money? I don't know. The thing for me is the developers are, and that's the important thing, right? They're getting paid fairly, whether you play 5 minutes or, 2 hours. They're still getting their buck because you bought the game, and that's the important thing.
I think the spirit of which this is intended, I think, is right. So I guess maybe in 6 months or so we can have a look at it again. And my last, sorry, I keep seeing E.T.'s finger pointing at me over your shoulder, and it's disconcerting.
It's very judgmental. He's very judgmental.
The final story, which again, so I hadn't heard of this, and we're talking about storefronts and stuff. It's a blockchain-powered game storefront reportedly shutting down and taking customers' games with it. Now, what this is,
And that's why you haven't heard of it, Dan.
so this is from PCGamer.com, and I found their original article from 2019, actually.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Ultimately, if I've understood it right, because I don't want to, because I'm looking at the time, we've talked a lot. This was a platform where you could resell your games on the PC.
Right.
So via blockchain. Yeah. Sounds.
Yeah. No, please carry on. I don't want to disrupt your flow.
No. So that's it. So where is it? The elevator pitch behind Robot Cash is simple. What if there was a digital storefront like Steam, but you could sell games to other users once you had finished playing them? Oh, and it's all powered by blockchain. Sorry to spoil the ending, but it didn't end up making much of a splash since it launched in 2018, and now a Reddit thread alleges it's gone for good. So there was apparently a screenshot posted that said it was going to close within 30 days. But it says here, the key point is after that point, the platform will no longer be accessible and users will no longer be able to play games purchased through Robot Cash, even if they've downloaded a full copy. It's because of DRM. So the team can't let people play their games because the site's verification system will go offline. And any of the site's digital currency called Iron will also be null and void. So, I mean, so all I was going to say is a very niche scenario, this, isn't it? But again, it does kind of show people's fears that they have about digital and not owning games.
For starters, right, we'll go back to the irony of Ron Seal. It says it does what it says on the tin. Yeah. I mean, it says Ron Seal on the tin. I don't know if you, but I've never Ron Sealed anything. I don't know what that is. But that, right, I think is part of the failure here, right? Because it's called Robot Cash. The fuck does that mean to anyone, right? Yeah. I mean, just take the one example here. We have a podcast called Gaming Views, right? What do we do on that podcast? We have a view on gaming, right? It does what it says on the tin, right? To call your thing Robot Cash, I'm like, what the fuck is it? Like, how am I supposed to know it's a blockchain operated, buying reused digital games? I don't know what. Shut up, go away. I'm glad you failed. The end.
Well, I think the issue here is, especially nowadays, gaming on the PC can be bought for peanuts, right? You can get huge releases for really cheap, through, I was going to say legitimate sites, but what I mean is through like the storefronts like Steam or the key sellers online, legitimate key sellers online. So,
well, is gaming on a PC? This is another episode. Is gaming on a PC really cheap, or is gaming on consoles really expensive, Dan? Because I think, let's just talk about Crimson Desert, right? I originally bought it on a PlayStation, right? Which completely underperforms the system I've got, right? And it cost me $52 or whatever, £52, and then cancelled it and bought it on a PC for 40 quid. Same game. Yeah. Performs far better on my PC than it ever would have on the PlayStation. And I'm in a lucky position where I have the option of choosing both. But why was I paying £10 more for an underperforming game?
Yeah.
So I think it's do you know what I mean? So yes, you can buy them cheaper on the PC. And I would love to, if I got bored of a game, be able to resell it like I could through Game or GameStop or one of those failing businesses that no longer resells you video games. I'm surprised CEX is still around, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, just two things for me. I mean, the final thing from this review, from this article, it said a 2025 report to investors said that the storefront generated only $532 in revenues from game sales in 2024. And the same report shares that as of December that year, the company had accumulated a deficit of over $30 million.
Wow. How are they still around? Well, I know it's because the word blockchain is in the title, but they generated $532 in revenue.
Yep.
Right. But a deficit of $30 million.
Yep.
That math ain't mathing, my friend.
I think my view is it probably felt like a good idea sort of back in 2018, because I guess Steam probably wasn't anywhere as big as it is now. Still big, but it isn't as big. And there was probably the whole argument about, well, you can't resell your games like you can physical. But I do wonder if the demand, like I said, both with games becoming cheaper, and do you sell games when they're physical because they're clogging up your room and you see them there, rather than, I know I've got a catalogue of like 1,000 games on the Steam, but I don't see it, so it doesn't bother me.
It's a really fair point. That's a really good point. Yeah, is it just a decluttering thing to get rid of your games? I know I did it recently, got rid of a bunch of stuff when I sold my consoles for that very reason. And they're there physically in front of you. You know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Because the only space you're having to clear up on a couple of terabytes drive, you go, I'll just uninstall it or reinstall it later.
Yeah.
Assuming I still own it, which if you deployed it through Robot Cache, you won't.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask if anyone has used it, let us know. But the fact they only made like $532. But if you have used them, or you were of them, let us know what your views or experiences were.
Yeah, and our commiserations to you.
Yeah.
On behalf of all gamers everywhere who didn't sell their second-hand games.
Right. Moving on swiftly, I want to get onto the main point of this, because I
want you to get onto the main point of it, Dan, because I'm very excited about crashing.
I found this fascinating, right? Because we've all heard about the video game crash. Everyone sort of laughs about ET and cartridges in the desert, but I don't think I'd had too much information around it. Now, look, I'm not going to go too in depth in this because there's a lot of numbers and stuff. So this is going to serve as a taster, I think, for what happened in 83. But are you the same as me, Dan, in that you hear it referenced a lot, but I don't think anyone ever really talks about what happened.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the most I learned about it is as we've been doing this for nearly a year, which is just, where we've spoken about, retro games or the resurgence of Nintendo or things like that I found out little bits and pieces, but never really looked at, what the underlying, well, I think we know what the underlying issue was with the crash, and I'm sure you'll go into a little bit of that, but yeah, never really knew what the outcome was, what happened, other than, did Nintendo save it, or was there something else there? So I am as thrilled as everyone else to find out about it. I'm strapping myself in, my friend.
And also, E.T. does get a rough deal here. So justice for E.T., I think, is what I'm hoping.
Well, he did it right at the box office, so I'm not going to feel that sorry for him, to be honest, mate.
That's true.
Elliot.
Right. So, and it feels quite timely, because if you watched our episode last week, which if you now it's been allowed back on YouTube, but if you subscribed and liked the channel, you should be able to find it a lot easier. You brought up a news story, didn't you, about the Romeros talking about how crashy.
I did. Crashier.
Crashier. And this is what I want us to have a look at and talk about right at the end.
Okay.
So we're going to go back in time, Dan. We're going to go back to the early 90s, right? And the video game industry was pretty much printing money at the time. But by 1980...
A bit like now.
Well, yeah. Yeah. By 1983, it famously suffered a catastrophic collapse. And I think that's not too strong a word, because it lost 97% of its revenue. So if we're looking... It
wasn't Robot Cache, was it?
No. If we're looking at...
No, that was more, sorry.
That was all digital money. Digital money was just a twinkle in someone's
it's all blockchain,
eye.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, if you said blockchain to them, they're probably thinking a Lego bridge or something. Right. So,
Nice.
So if we're looking at it, right, so in 1982, it was $3.2 billion, and it fell to $100 million by 1985. Now, if we look at it in 2025 equivalents...
That's just to put that in perspective, that's in 2 years.
Yep.
So in 24 months, that dropped from 3.2 billion to 100 million.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
If we convert that to 2025 money, that's $10.34 billion to 299 million. Yeah. So huge. So the crash abruptly ended what was retrospectively, and in hindsight, considered the second generation of console gaming in North America. And to a lesser extent, the arcade video game market was also weakened as the video games golden age was coming to an end. Now, something I don't think I necessarily appreciated was it's important to note that this was something that specifically affected the American market.
Okay.
The rest of the world was fairly untouched by this, especially Japan, and so much so that in Japanese business circles, they call it the Atari Shock, not the video game crash.
So when when we've referenced the crash in the past, it's literally been about the US. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. In the West, we call it a video game crash, and it was an event of such, and again, as they say, such magnitude that it resulted in the permanent dissolution of the medium in North America. And in Europe, the microcomputer kept gaming alive. So
yes,
we're going to go into this now a little bit more. So people usually blame terrible games for the crash, but it was actually a perfect mix of, here we go, have you heard this before? Corporate greed, hardware.
I don't understand that.
No,
Don't see that anymore.
Alien concept.
Don't see that anymore.
Hardware overload and change in markets. So
okay,
let's have a look. So what was the market like before the crash? And I think it's important to know this because this is ultimately what's giving you your warning signs, right? So
yeah,
gaming kind of got rapidly changed from people doing lab-based experiments to all of a sudden putting it out into the public's hands, and then it becoming almost feels like overnight a multi-billion-dollar sector, right?
Right.
1972, the release of the Magnavox Odyssey and a subsequent success of Atari's Pong. That's where the market then started having the explosive growth. So you're going back to the 70s as well. So I guess the thing to point out about that time, though, is it's not going to be as affordable or readily available maybe to people's homes, right?
I should imagine it was a small fortune back then for one of those, right?
Yeah.
Like an Atari, like a 2600 or whatever. I assume it was, a very much a luxury item.
Yes. Yeah.
Bit like now.
Yeah. Yeah, only $1,000.
$900 PS5 Pro, anyone?
Oh dear. Well, like I said, let's think about all these stories we've talked about and Ramageddon while we're going through this. So
yeah.
You then get kind of one of the main catalysts. By the late 70s, you got the Atari video computer system, right? The VCS, rebranded as the Atari 2600. And this established cartridge-based consoles, right? And that became the dominant home entertainment system.
Yep.
Key thing, Atari, at the time, the industry operated under a strictly integrated first-party model. So companies like Atari tightly controlled the consoles. If you bought an Atari 2600, you only bought Atari-made games. And now, like we're saying, look at Steam, look at Epic Game Store, etc. But, and again, so alien to us now, it was said Atari treated its developers terribly at the time.
Doesn't happen anymore, does it, Microsoft?
No.
Sony. Sorry, there's been a level on Sony this week. I'm just sorry. Stay getting easy, right?
Yeah. In 1979, the corporate culture under CEO Ray Kassar emphasized minimal production costs and dismissed the creative value of programmers. Now, this led to massive morale issues within Atari. And a really important thing then happens here. So 4 lead programmers, David Crane, Larry Kaplan, Alan Miller, and Bob Whitehead, they were responsible for games that...
What? Hang on. Why do they all sound like characters off of Frasier?
I know. Have I mixed my notes up again? Have I mixed This is that viewing views coming back up, haven't I? So the 4 of them were responsible for games that generated 60% of Atari's $100 million in annual sales, but they received no creative credit, right? No creative credit.
Wow.
And were compensated at the standard assembly line rates. They resign and they form a little known company called Activision, right?
I'm not familiar with those guys. Have they done anything big?
I'm sure it might pop up.
Probably find out later, maybe.
Yeah, but good luck to those guys. This then introduced the third-party development model. Atari weren't happy with that, and legal response was swift, seeking to block Activision through litigation, alleging the theft of trade secrets and patent infringement. However, 1982, this settlement of the Atari v Activision suit effectively legitimized the right of independent firms to manufacture and sell software for proprietary hardware. Now, you'd think, good, right? It's a good story. While it was
which bit of it?
While it was a victory for independent creativity, it created an unforeseen tragedy because the Atari 2600 possessed no technical mechanism to authenticate software such as a lockout chip.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so this settlement basically opened the floodgates for any firm to produce software for the system without any quality or checking.
Ruh-roh. I smell some shovelware going on.
You better believe it, right? I'm not going to mention it here, or I guess I could jump down. But you had companies with zero gaming experience like Quaker Oats and Purina, the dog food company, pumping out cheap games to cash in on the hype.
Oh, like for advertisements, like to go, be the Quaker Oats guy and collect a field of oats and just for advertising purposes.
Yeah. Now look, do you know what? I'm going to jump down. I'm going to jump down to my notes and I'm going to get hopelessly lost, right? Because this is right at the bottom. But I had to.
Do you know Pac-Man ripoffs?
Well, I had to look at this, right? Quaker Oats, right? So in 1982, they bought a small software developer called US Games. They didn't do this out of passion for gaming. They wanted to compete with their cereal rivals, General Mills, who successfully owned Parker Brothers, who made Frogger. So Quaker Oats released 14 games in a single year for the Atari 2600. Right?
So it wasn't advertising. They just wanted to compete with...
Yeah.
Wow.
Games, like I said, games were the big thing, right? And now all of a sudden, anyone could make games, right?
Yeah.
The most infamous was called Sneak and Peek, a literal hide and seek simulator. The game required player 2 to physically cover their eyes in the real world while player 1 hid their pixelated character on the screen.
There's no way you could cheat at that, Dan, and that's the beauty of that. You could not cheat at that game whatsoever.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Now, other titles included Towering Inferno, licensed from the film Space Jockey, Commando Raid, Egomania, and Name the Game. So how they did, they flopped entirely. Despite some games having decent concept, none of the 14 titles became a hit. The game sold so poorly.
I'm very shocked.
Well,
I'm really shocked.
It sold poorly, and as the market started to crash, Quaker Oats dissolved their division in March 1983 after just 1 year. Purina.
Did they develop Highguard?
Moving on. Purina. I think we have that here, but I don't know if it's more of an
R.I.P. Highguard.
Yeah.
Yes, No, we have Purina over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they wanted to capitalise on a popular series of TV commercials for their Chuck Wagon dog food, which featured a dog chasing a miniature horse-drawn wagon. So they hired a third-party developer, Spectra Video, to create a game based on the ad. Now, the game was very rudimentary maze game. You controlled a dog, you had to catch flying bones, time limit, etc., etc., etc. Total commercial failure. The game wasn't sold in stores. It was a promotional mail-away exclusive that required customers to clip and send in proofs of purchase from bags of dog food. Few people bothered to do this, and it was mostly ignored. Yeah. But... Sorry, go on.
I wonder how many was this on the? I don't suppose this is, but if it was on the Atari, like how many households actually had? Right, so you had to have the convergence of it. You have to actually own an Atari 2600 and be someone who buys Purina dog food. Well, that specific brand.
Well, I think
the Venn diagram of Purina owners versus Atari versus mailing coupon owners.
Well, the thing is, there probably were enough Atari owners, but the problem is, who's going to collect all these things and then send off for probably what you think is going to be a bad game, possibly. But
yeah, where you're catching dog food, not little horse-drawn carriages as you'd expect to, because that's what it says in the tin.
If you do see it in the shop, right? For cheap, buy it, because it's a highly coveted holy grail now for retro game collectors, often selling for hundreds or thousands of dollars if you find it in a box.
American only, I doubt I'll find one, but I'll keep a look at the car boot sales I don't go to.
Johnson & Johnson, they made games?
Did they now, as well as soap?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
It wasn't looking for a hit. They were looking to encourage oral hygiene, and their game was called Tooth Protectors in 1983. Right? You controlled a smile at the bottom of the screen, moving a protective shield to block snack foods from hitting a row of teeth. If you failed, the teeth decayed. I like the idea of this, to be fair. Kind of like Space.
Isn't it Space Invaders?
Space Invaders. It was, again, a mail-away promotional item. You had to send in proofs of purchase. And again, it's an incredibly rare collector's item, but it did very little for the company's bottom line.
I'll be honest, Dan, I'm still really struggling to see why the video game crash happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't understand it. With games like that, I mean, where could they go wrong?
I'm just going to blitz through the others. You had Kool-Aid did a game in 1983. Apparently it did better than the others. It was a mail away offer, but then they did sell in stores due to high demand. CBS, Columbia Broadcasting System, did a number of games. They were quite successful for a minute. They produced high quality games, but the crash affected them, so they pulled out. 20th Century Fox did a handful. Released games based on Alien, Fantastic Voyage, and MASH. Milton and Bradley, KTEL did a game. A low-budget horror movie distributor called Wizard Video released games. So this is just to add a little bit of context to the previous point, where basically, whilst that court case was great for developers and probably benefits us now, it just opened the floodgates to Cadbury's
quality control. Anyway, I would say, Dan.
Yeah, basically. Right. So we've spoken about that. So you've got anyone could do it because there's no checks on the console.
Yes, sir.
Now, by 1982, then the industry reached an unsustainable gold rush expansion, as it's called. Now, total revenue for the combined arcade and home markets reached between 11.8 billion and 12.8 billion. A figure that at the time tripled the revenue of the domestic movie box office at the time. So, we keep comparing it now, but that was triple.
Wow. It's a lot.
As well
as shit games.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, unless you want to play a Smile, that's trying to avoid eating bad food, which, well, good for you. Not good for you. I meant they all taste good to you. That's what I meant to say. We're not here for health. If you're here for health views, you've got the wrong podcast.
You're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The market, as well as games, though, was also an overcrowded mess hardware-wise. Now, I think I've given you the chart there. So if you walked into a store, you were blasted with at least 7 different totally incompatible consoles. So just to reel them off, you had the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, the Odyssey 2, the ColecoVision, the Atari 5200, the Vectrex, and the Arcadia 2001, all within 5 years of each other. And if you have a look, sort of adjusted to today's price, they're all fairly pricey. I mean, we give Sony the PlayStation hard run, but the Intellivision 2025 price is $990, and the Atari 5200 equates to $900 now. So
I love these. I love these sort of charts they put in, and the estimated adjusted price. They don't take into account any of the kind of economic and global effects of anything that's happened. Yeah. Since then, they just give a blatant, this is what it is. And this is the sort of thing that annoys you, because this is the sort of thing that gets spat out by AI. And what's worse is it's the sort of thing that gets spat out by AI, and the person typing in the question is normally some knobhead CFO at the top of a company who's going, how can I make more money? I know, I'll stick the price of the PlayStation up by $150, because back then they used to sell for that sort of money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's, it was a different world. And I mean it genuinely a different world back then. We're on the worst timeline now. So, whatever has happened, so it's just nonsense.
And let's not forget, look, at the time, those were, as rudimentary as they look now, those were cutting edge tech at the time, right? That's
also taxes were lower, cost of living was better, all of these things that you take into account. So, you had more disposable income. So it was like, oh, well, maybe I can afford that. Whereas now, who wants to scrimp and save for something when they're scrimping and saving for trying to buy food for themselves of a week, it's. Yeah. So, I get the crashier bits coming from, I can see it. It's like a light at the end of the tunnel. That's a train coming towards me.
Yeah. So let's recount, right? So we've got an industry that people can, the commercial sector are really jumping on because they can see it. People are latching onto it. You've got an influx of anyone can make games. You've got a number of incompatible systems. So to throw something else into the mix now, you've got high profile games were failing spectacularly too. Now, look, they happen now, but there are more games now, right? That's the thing. We're in a
anymore.
Yeah. The specific failures of high profile titles eroded consumer trust. Atari's Pac-Man port was very buggy.
Okay.
And we all know
no day one patches.
No. I mean, you'd also think, and look, I'm not a developer clearly, but you think, how hard is it to do Pac-Man right? Okay.
Can't be that difficult, can it?
Well, apparently so for the Atari. Then the one we all know, and the one that's on my board on your screen there, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, they are probably what have come to define or become the face of the crash, right? Now, if we talk about Pac-Man, this is also where the corporate greed comes in. So Atari manufactured 12 million cartridges of Pac-Man when only 10 million consoles were in homes. So they generated 2 million more cartridges.
So hang on a minute. So you're, as a manufacturer or as the owner of the copyright, you're expecting every single console owner to buy one, and then factoring in that, like, yeah, and then going to stick 20% on top for because someone's definitely those 20% more people are definitely going to go and buy a console and Pac-Man.
Yeah,
man, can you imagine if you operated a business like that now? Like, you know, it's like Nike going, well, there are 9 billion people on the planet. Surely every single person's going to want to buy a pair of our trainers, and then we'll add another, 1.8 billion on top. I mean,
yeah,
it's insane.
Well, they thought it was going to drive hardware sale, right? They thought these two games would do it, but
wow, that's madness, man. That's fucking mad.
And yeah, it's 20%, but like we said, if we're talking about 100 cartridges, that's one thing, but it's 12 million, so it's 2 million extra cartridges. Yeah,
bonkers. And I bet you can't get it for love nor money now.
Well, if you've got a shovel, I think you surely can. You go digging in the desert. So E.T. also, so we've said Pac-Man was bad, but E.T. Now look, E.T. gets a really rough ride, and look, it is a bad game, and just get alluded to the fact that people did just wonder what the hell was going on. But I saw a documentary on it, and the developer, basically was screwed over. Normally they would say, look, you need at least like 3 months to do a game, say a bit more. They gave him 5 weeks to do it, develop it, and get it shipped, basically.
5 weeks to build a game.
Yep. They needed it out for Christmas, I think it was. Yeah.
A little bit unfair.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So, yeah, I for when we release this, I'll try find the documentaries. But yeah, so...
Do you know what? It feels like the equivalent of going to someone, I've got a birthday party in 5 minutes. Can you bake me a cake?
Yeah.
Do you know it? That's what it feels like the equivalent of, because we know how much effort goes into creating a video game, right? To tell them they got like 5 weeks.
It's whenever it's like the equivalent of a manager saying to you, I've got an opportunity for you.
Yeah. Could be amazing.
Yeah, so I kind of feel for this guy because his you could tell his credibility, obviously, and his reputation took a massive hit. And it's...
Have you played E.T.?
No, I mean, I've seen the videos. I've not played.
Okay.
The 2600.
Okay. I think I've got it on my little. Whatever this thing is, this little retro thing. I'm pretty sure it's on here, so I might have to fire it up and have a look and see if
record it.
See if I've actually got it on here. Oh God, it's making noises, Dan. It's all right. I made it go quiet.
So you then got consumer trust then almost becomes zero because you've released these massively high-profile games and they've been crap, right? So
understatement of the episode.
At the same time, the arcades, we saw the golden age there. So machine sales increased from 50 million in 1978 to 900 million by 1981. So that's a massive increase.
Quite a lot.
I love that quite a lot. That's the understatement of the episode there. By 1982, there were 24,000 full arcades and 1.5 million machines active in North America. Right. So, were there warning signs? So we've listed all the things that were going wrong. Were there warning signs? Yes, ultimately there were. Now, analysts in late 1982 began to notice a massive divergence of production and demand. So we've already mentioned the Pac-Man palaver, right? But in 1983, manufacturing output for video game sector increased by 175%, while consumer demand increased by 100%. So production had a 75% greater, was 75% greater than demand.
we've spoken about supply and demand before, Dan.
Yep.
And it's often not great when supply outweighs demand to that degree.
Yeah. So you're probably not going to be surprised to know that this then led to a massive surplus of inventory around.
I can't see how that's possible, man. That seems insane, Dan.
So let's go back to Raymond Cassar, the Atari CEO again. He noticed in 1982 that the saturation point was imminent. However, he expected it to occur when half of American households had a video game console, right?
Right, sure.
However, the crash occurred when about 15 million machines had been sold. The president of Atari's electronic division, Michael Katz, stated that the console market was too saturated as 30 million consoles were sold out of the 35 million households with children between the ages of 6 and 16. So you're looking at what you think the demographic is 35 million. 30 million of those had a console. So that's what they saw then as already being too saturated or oversaturated.
Well, you're assuming that because 30 million have sold.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean 30 million of one to every single household who has that demographic. It could be, someone's bought 20 of them to stick in a warehouse or, I mean, it's.
But I guess that's what they were trying to. That was what they
data never lies, Dan.
Well, exactly. Follow the data. You then had a shovelware crisis, which we've talked about, and something we spoke about a few weeks ago. Their consumers had no real review mechanism for games. This was before the real sort of advent of gaming reviews. Obviously, far before the internet.
Yeah, when were we talking about those magazine articles and stuff? It was kind of late 70s, wasn't it? And then it kind of blossomed into the early 80s.
Yeah, and I think really the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I think.
Yeah, certainly when it became more, well, certainly in the UK because we still had the games industry. But yeah, okay. Yeah.
So,
interesting.
But what that meant was people were buying games basically on packaging, which was often misleading. So again, denting consumer trust. Now, this really jolted my memory because I used to remember buying like Commodore 64 games and Amiga games, but often you would get, and they would have to label them, but it was often small. It would be screenshots from other systems. So even on even the system you were buying, they could advertise screenshots from other systems on it, as long as I think they put somewhere in text on it, sort of Commodore Spectrum.
God, can you imagine how disappointed you must have been as a Spectrum owner in those days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got ZX Spectrum. Look at this game, and then you hold it up and see the back of the box. It's got the Amiga, and you're like, fuck.
Why haven't
we got an Amiga?
Yeah, why isn't my system that only ever produces monochrome graphics now suddenly not doing color graphics on this? Why? So
what do you mean 8-bit? I want 16-bit.
So let's start talking a bit about PCs at the time. So while the console market was suffocating itself, home computers swooped in, right? So Commodore slashed the price of its Commodore 64 down to $299. And their pitch was simple. Why buy your kid a toy game console when for the same price you could buy a real computer that plays better games and helps with homework?
Got a point. got a point.
Yep.
I'm not saying that Crimson Desert looks better on a PC than it does on the PlayStation, but I'm just saying I can still do my homework on my PC.
So what he then did, what the Jack Tramiel then, who was the leader of Commodore, what he did, he leveraged the ownership of chip manufacturer they had to undercut competitors like Texas Instruments, Atari and Sinclair. So they basically reduced the prices of all their products. So the Commodore VIC-20, the 64, they reduced their prices just to kind of nudge in even more on this market.
Nice. Smart move.
Yeah. So we then let's come up to the crash. So you've got all these things going on. So the thing about the Commodore bit is to say, right, you've got the console is eating itself, the console market is eating itself, but you've got a booming now home computer scene, which is ready to kind of take in and
you've got a perfect storm, right? Happening. Yeah. You literally have a perfect storm, and then in comes your PCs undercutting the price of everything again. They're almost like, that straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
It's that, isn't it? It's that one thing that just goes, oh, fuck.
And I think we
didn't.
said in one of our really early episodes that in Europe, it was the PCs, it was the computers, the Commodores, the Spectrums that took hold. Consoles came quite late to us, really, didn't we? In
Yeah,
terms
they did.
of popularity.
Yes, they did. Yeah, in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah. So the crash itself, right, is not a single event. So that's the thing. People often talk about the crash, but it was basically something that lasted 2 years. So it began in 1983 and reached its lowest in 1985, right? It was facilitated by a massive retail backlog. So like we said, overproduction, surplus production, people not wanting to buy games. So this is it, right? Stores realizing that the games weren't selling, they attempted to return stock to publishers to recoup their costs. Some of the publishers had neither new products nor cash to issue refunds to the retailers. So a lot of publishers quickly folded. So you had Games by Apollo and US Games quickly folded because they couldn't give refunds. And so they led to their bankruptcy. Unable to return unsold inventory to defunct publishers, major retailers like Sears, Kmart, and JCPenney began to liquidate their stock at massive losses. Now, games that had originally retailed for $35, which, if we do the equivalents, is around $116 now, was placed...
GTA 6?
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. So $35 were placed in discount bins for as little as $5. So these are new games, right?
Right.
So this then creates a secondary shock because consumers then refused to buy products at full price because they knew they would be in that bargain bucket within a couple of weeks. So it's self-fulfilling prophecy there, right?
Isn't that a bit like what you're doing with Resident Evil Requiem?
The immediate consequence. Yes and no, but no, it's not. And
no, it's not. No, it's not. It's completely different. Dan. Sorry.
Dan.
No, you're right.
Right.
By games industry, the curse of Dan Pierce struck again.
So one of the immediate effects of this, again, was mass exodus from the sector. So Magnavox abandoned the video game business entirely. Mattel shut down its Intellivision division, and it took a $394 million write-off. Imagic withdrew its IPO the day before its stock was due to go public, and the company later collapsed. And Activision, who remember them? So they were the 4 developers who left Atari, had to downsize across 1984 and 85 due to loss of revenue to stay competitive and maintain financial security. But
I hope they're all right.
Well, what they then started to do, they pivoted to developing games for the personal computer.
Did they?
Yes, yeah.
Did they? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
within a few years.
I can just see them becoming this big publishing house at some point and then getting bought by some major console owner and software developer. I don't know. I just got this, this thought that might happen.
Well, you never know. You never know. Let's see how it turns out. I mean, they stopped making cartridge-based games entirely within a couple of years and solely made computer games after that. So Atari was the company that suffered the most. So by mid-1983, the company had lost $356 million, was forced to lay off 30% of its 10,000 employees and moved all manufacturing to Hong Kong and Taiwan. So,
a lot of companies did that, didn't they? Electronics manufacturing and still do to this day.
But you know, look what we're seeing now. Layoffs across. We've reported so many weeks in a row now. Companies doing layoffs. You've got offshoring, etc.
Yes.
Echoes, mirrors, reflections, whatever you want to call it. But you know, don't ignore the signs.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think there are very different reasons fundamentally as to why that's happening.
Yes,
but I don't think it's the growth of the industry that's driving it, which was driving this. This is more, you know, I think certain companies, mainly software, and Sony and Microsoft have made some very silly purchasing decisions, haven't recouped their losses and decided that the easiest thing to do is get shot of it.
Yeah.
That's what I think is happening at the moment. It still doesn't make it any better, but certainly not for those people who lost their jobs.
No.
But it's different, but I know what you mean. It's, you know, the signs are still there.
Yeah, it's just we're in a different age now with AI, etc. and the tech. It's the same result, just different symptoms. Is that right? Yeah. So getting shot of things, Atari was then sold because how badly they were doing. Commodore then bought Atari's consumer products division in July 1984. So they took the name and directed their efforts into developing their new personal computer line, the Atari ST, which we know, especially over here in UK anyway, did really well. And I think you said you had one, didn't you? Yeah.
I had one. Well, I had a VIC 20, a 64, and an ST.
Oh, really? Yes.
Yeah.
But they were...
God, they sound like some sort of STDs. Well, yeah, I had all of them done.
Well, they were the big competitor to the Amiga. I remember that was for me at the time on the playground, that was like the console wars. It was whether you had an Amiga or an Atari ST. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Atari ST was your music maker.
Yeah.
I think it had a better sound chip.
Yep,
but the Amiga, graphics. I think everything... Yeah, I remember going around my mate, Dominic Miles. Hi, Dom. I remember going around, he had an Amiga. And I remember playing his Amiga, the same game as I had on the ST. It might be Robocop, actually, just going, wow, it just looks so much better than the ST.
Yeah.
I can make music, though. I never made music.
Join them together and you have the perfect combination.
Holy Grail.
So now we're going to get to the ultimate symbol of the crash, the landfill.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So this happened in September 1983 when Atari secretly buried over 700,000 unsold games and consoles in New Mexico, right? While urban legends claimed that millions of cartridges were buried, the 2014 excavation of the site confirmed the burial was an act of economic pragmatism. It was basically cheaper to bury the tax-deductible inventory than to continue paying for warehouse storage in a hostile market. Now, the burial remains the definitive symbol of the crash and speculative marketing. But again, there was a documentary came out a fair few years ago about this. Have you seen that?
I haven't. I'm aware of it. I haven't watched it.
Again, that's great.
Call yourself a fan, Hornblower. Yeah. So.
Well, it was always that. It was an urban legend, wasn't it? It was like, people they buried these cartridges. Like, no, it's not.
Millions of copies of ET. ET was always the one that was cited. It was always ET.
Poor ET.
But you're saying it was loads of different games and consoles.
It was just inventory that
And was it all Atari stuff, or was it just?
I think it was Atari. Yeah, I think it was Atari. Right. They, like we said, publishers couldn't afford refunds and were going out of business. So, instead of holding it in stock, let's bury it.
Bury it.
So, yeah, again, I'll try and find out the name of that documentary, but it's great when you see them pull out of the dirt a cartridge that's got the Atari branding on it. So, look, it's all bad so far, right? It's all doom and gloom.
It's not great.
But as they say, enter a new competitor, is it? So
challenger?
Enter a new challenger, or a new challenger enters the fray, and you know who that is. So who was that?
Was it our friends over at Ninty? Was it Auntie Nintendo?
Yep, they decided to put their popcorn down and stop chewing their popcorn and watch it. So they were going, obviously, in Japan, strength to strength, right? So they were untouched by this. They were doing really well.
They're originally a pachinko company, right? They've always been in games manufacturing,
playing cards,
and they were massive. Yeah, playing, and all massive in Japan.
Yeah,
huge.
Yeah, so you've got a legacy and a history there, and in Forbes, right? Forbes in early 1981 predicted that Japanese companies would eventually dominate the North American video game industry, right? But they were basing that.
Right, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, they based it on that American companies were increasingly licensing products from Japanese companies, who in turn were opening up North American branches. So that was the reason why they were saying that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So by 82 and 83, Japanese manufacturers had captured a large share of the North American market. The arcade market, so partly attributed to Japanese companies having more finances to invest in new ideas. So on the 15th of July, 1983, at the peak of the crisis in America, remember, Nintendo released the family computer, the Famicom, in Japan. Now, we've mentioned Japanese retailers had not experienced the same oversaturation, and Nintendo, led by Hiroshi Yamauchi, insisted on cheap but powerful console that could run faithful ports of arcade hits like Donkey Kong. So again, we're talking about quality. There was an element of having quality in this system.
Yeah, Nintendo seal of quality.
Yeah. The Famicom sold 2.5 million units by the end of 1984. they then obviously had a look over the ocean and decided they wanted to enter the North American market. However, they're coming into a market that has been absolutely devastated, decimated, and destroyed by the preceding 2.5 years. And this is what I don't think I appreciated. And I think we did mention this. You did mention this in the Super Nintendo version, right? They had to be really sneaky about this, right? So the console, they knew they couldn't get through with it being a game system. So it was designed to look like a high-end consumer electronic device, specifically a VCR with the front-loading mechanism, and rebranded.
Didn't have the purple splashes of the Japanese one, and it didn't look anything like it, to be fair.
Yeah, and they called it the Nintendo Entertainment System rather than games or console, anything to do with that. They didn't call the games. They called them game packs, so they weren't video games, they're game packs, and they bundled them with a robot toy and a light gun that were marketed as sophisticated toys. So,
Rob the robot.
Yeah, so they had to, they used their brain and said, right, let's do it. And like it's described here, they called it the Trojan horse, which I think is an absolutely brilliant way of describing what they did.
Yeah, it's very cunning, isn't it, to kind of look at a market that's been devastated, look at what went wrong. I mean, look, every project does it, right? You learn your lessons. You go, what are the lessons we've learned? Well, don't do this, don't do that. Well, what could we do? And they've clearly, done their homework. They know how to sell a product. I mean, Nintendo Switch 2. And they've kind of gone, well, what do we do differently? Well, let's make it more like like you said, like a VCR, something that sits under the telly. Let's not brand it as some sort of kid's toy, the entertainment system, because over in Japan, I mean, I don't think that name would have washed anyway. Famicom, a family computer is not a computer, right? But to call it an entertainment system, stick something in like the Rob thing, which was shit, by the way, but and a light gun, and have something a bit different. Yeah, more power to them. I mean, I hope they do well as well.
I wonder what happened to them. We should do a follow up.
We should do a follow up on Nintendo. But very, very cunning, very savvy. Savvy's probably a better word than cunning. I don't think it was cunning. I think it was savvy.
Yeah, exactly. Intelligent. Let's be honest. It's intelligent, right? And they also strove to differentiate. So obviously they looked and saw what the issues were in America at the time. So they got around everything, around the whole shovelware problem as well, by making their system a walled garden. So you've got the Atari era, which we've gone through, but the Nintendo era, so the software rights were closed. It was mandatory licensing. Manufacturing quality control was solely by Nintendo, and it needed the official seal of quality vetting. The inventory risk was managed by strict order minimums. And I think a developer or a publisher could only do 5 games per year limit. And it was a 2.
Yeah, we spoke about that in our, was it our Zelda episode, I think, and we spoke about it, but I think that's the deep dive. What did we do in Nintendo episode? I can't remember now.
Super Nintendo one, didn't we?
Yeah, maybe it was that, because that carried through. They were only allowed to do 5 games a year as a third party. They couldn't just churn out crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's possible to churn out crap 5 games a year, but
not like
they'd have to get past their QA.
Not
like Quaker Oats or Purina dog catching bones or whatever it was called. Yeah.
Now, you wanted to know how they did. I've got good news for you, Dan. They did well. So,
did they? And they survived?
Yeah. By 1988, so you're looking at 3 years later, they had captured over 90% of the North American market, effectively creating a monopoly that persisted until you had a new challenger in Sega and then Sony in the 90s.
Never heard of them.
One of the key things was they had they call it I think it's a 10 NES chip, which is a lockout chip. So again, a cartridge had to have looked up and seen that to work. So you couldn't just put anything on there.
Yeah, you couldn't just put any old shit in.
Now, legacy of this, and let's start looking at what's happening now. So the lessons of the 1983 debacle continue to have an effect today. So the walled garden model used by modern platform holders, including Sony, Microsoft, Apple, and Google, is a descendant of Nintendo's 10 NES system. So it's a lockout chip, or the CIC, a check-in integrated circuit. And 1983 Crash established that this is an interesting phrase, that in a technologically dependent medium, the platform holder must act as a curator to protect the health of the entire ecosystem. And again, we kind of said last week, didn't we, about these companies need to have a bit more responsibility and accountability in what they're doing, I think.
Yeah.
Now, modern industry analysts increasingly point to parallels between 1983 and the mass layoffs that are occurring in the post-pandemic era. Between 2022 and 2025, an estimated 45,000 jobs were lost in the global games industry, spurred by COVID. But just like in 1983, the modern situation, whether you want to call it a crisis or not, you've got overinvestment and overexpansion. So lots of mergers, and our good friends Microsoft recently have been quite good at doing that.
Exactly what I was saying earlier, right? Yeah. I think they've purchased where they shouldn't have, and thought they could make a buck where they couldn't, and now they're realising the error of their ways, and abandoning companies left, right, and centre.
Yeah,
I think and people more importantly.
Yeah, you've got development costs. So the budget for AAA titles has reached a point of diminishing returns. And
same.
Unless the price goes up, and we've got eyes on a certain game later this year that ends in a 6, and you've got market saturation. I'm just trying to think. There'll be someone to say there's going to be probably a few games that come out with a 6 at the end of it.
There is quite a few, I would imagine. Yeah. The Elder Scrolls.
Let us know. Yeah, Elder Scrolls. Are you sure about that? And market saturation. Look, we talked about it at the start, which is interesting. So you've got the rise of digital storefronts has created its own, quote, shovelware crisis, with thousands of games releasing on platforms such as like Steam, Epic, etc. Good old games, although they're more your legacy games. But, you've got multiple storefronts. So
yeah,
people are sort of a bit fearful on that. And really, I've just got one final bit on this. So the legal mess that came out of the 1983 crash, I can't say that, 1983 crash, and especially the Nintendo era that followed, basically helped set the rules for how game software copyright works, which I find a fascinating byproduct of this. So you had cases like Sega v. Accolade and Atari v. Nintendo made it clear that developers could legally reverse engineer things like lockout chips as long as they didn't copy any of the original code into their final product. So it's kind of figure it out but don't steal it approach was seen as fair use at the time. And the reason it matters today is it's why things like emulators and indie hardware can exist without immediately running into legal trouble. So you can reverse engineer it, just don't put anything that leads to it in your final product. So yeah, and just got a summary in that the 83 video crash was basically a reality check for an industry that grown too fast. It forced gaming to grow up, and it shows that it really does need to have balance to be a successful thing. So yeah, like I said, it's high level, but there's a lot in there. But I think we encapsulated the key inputs into the crash. So kind of what are any takeaways or views you've got on that?
I think the most interesting part is the comparative to today, because I know you're a retro lover, and I couldn't give two shits what they buried in the desert, to be honest. But hence I haven't watched the documentary, because I'm always forward looking at where games and stuff are concerned. But I think it's fascinating to kind of look at the comparatives and go, well, actually, have we really learned our lessons? And I'm not suggesting we're in a similar place, right? We often talk about things being too big to fail. I'm not sure the video game industry is too big to fail or to crash. But I do wonder if we have... It's so much bigger than it was then. Like in terms of genre, in terms of, everything, every facet of video gaming is so different and is so broad. There's something for everyone in there, right? So I don't know if it can crash in the same way. And when we talk about crash, right, we talked about, and we said it right at the beginning, this was North America. This wasn't a global crash, right? And the stories we hear these days are very much centered around primarily the big three. Normally, it's very rare we hear, a studio shut down that was, unless it's a live service game, that wasn't owned by Microsoft or Sony or, Nintendo don't really own, but do you know what I mean? So I don't know if it is the same, because then it was very centralized into some very specific players, right? And the breadth of what we have now in terms of development houses and publishers and everything else, and the ecosystem that's been created around gaming is just massive. Am I saying it's too big to fail? Well, maybe I am in a roundabout way, but maybe to crash in the same way. There's not to suggest it can't happen, right? Because people said the housing market would never crash, right? But then they sold a load of mortgages to people who couldn't afford them. So yeah, I can't see people burying copies of GTA 6 in the desert at the end of this year, to be honest. But I do think something very different is going to happen. And I think it's going to evolve in a very different way, particularly when you look at both the two mainstays, Sony and Microsoft, pushing for, $1,000 consoles next launch. I think that's, and that the thing that concerns me there is this, that you alluded to at the beginning of this, was around corporate greed. And yes, you can argue that RAM prices and everything else are driving some of this, but I think a lot of this is driven by boardroom greed, and people just wanted to make more and more money. And I think that's going to be the death knell of gaming, because, quality actually is improving, I think, in gaming in general. For some of the big titles, I think, yeah, look, there's some shit out there, right? But actually, you look at the big titles that we both love and play. You take something like Resident Evil Requiem or the Resident Evil series in general, that has improved hand over fist every iteration. You look at more and more of the indie games that are coming out, and I'm not saying there aren't studios that fail. There absolutely are, but a lot of the indie titles that are coming out are better, more engaging. Even if they're short stay, even if they're things that you do at 10 minutes at a time. And I'm talking my world, the stuff that I play and that I love. So I think things are improving from a quality perspective, which is good. There's shitloads of shovelware out there, right? But actually the stuff that's being purchased and bought and looked at and goes viral and, seems to be of a higher quality. So I think there are some differences in the comparatives. But yeah, I don't know, Dan, I worry about what actually happens. And I think this is part of the reason subconsciously why I'm slowly moving towards PC gaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm slowly, like when I'm buying something now, I never ever, yes, part of that is I've got something that will play most of these games now, but I never would have sat there and gone, it would have always been, do I get it on Xbox or PlayStation? Now I'm going, how much is that on PC? Can I get that on?
Look at me with the Steam Deck. Before it would have been, do I move over to the PlayStation finally? It's like, no, because I've got the Steam Deck and I want the Steam machine.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that might be where a lot of us end up, because if I had the choice between spending £1,000 on an Xbox or £1,000 on a gaming rig that I could buy the games on cheaper, more readily available, with a lot more choice of other games, what would I do?
Mm.
And I didn't have to pay £30 a month for Game Pass to play them on.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Xbox, obviously, but where am I more likely to spend my bucks?
You see, everything,
and I can upgrade it.
Yeah.
Just so.
Yeah. Everything you said has been fascinating, and I kind of agree. I think we are in a place where we could have a crash, but I think it's very different, like you were saying. So let's go back to 1983. Everything I said, the reason that happened is, look, greed is a word, and there definitely would be greed, but also I think these manufacturers and these retailers were falling over themselves because of this new emerging hobby and this technology, and consumers also were probably sort of like, begging to have something in their house like that. And it was something massive. I can imagine it. And greed, but also wanting to get a piece of that pie. You would do. Any business would. And I think it's just came too much too fast. And that's what was proven, right? I think where we're at now is more complacency, I think, and on both sides of the fence. So look, we had a story earlier about people demanding more from an $8 game, right?
Mm.
And look, and that is that's an edge case potentially, but we we have said where, look, Slay the Spire 2 gets an update and people complaining. Crimson, no, Slay the Spire 2 got negatively marked, didn't it?
Yes, it did, yeah.
I think you've got complacency on the manufacturers and the publishers side now because, look, you said it, putting up consoles now up to $900. Potentially next year is going to be $1,000, or the next generation, is going to be $1,000. We've got them because of their absolute fascination and obsession with AI. Our RAM is doubling, tripling. We might not be able to get, my beloved Steam machine still hasn't been given a date yet because of it. Also, we're looking at potentially the games, the price is increasing, and I don't think it's not going to be the $100 they were saying, but GTA 6 are probably going to set a little bit higher, and then we're going to keep seeing it going higher. And we're seeing everything, the reverse of everything happen, where we're seeing prices going up in generations rather than coming down. And I think what we're going to see now is more that the market is absolutely still there, but we are being almost squeezed dry. And I think something's going to happen where potentially it could force the market not to crash, but to reset itself. It needs a reset rather than a crash.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you have to define crash, right? Because what happened in the 80s was a very specific set of circumstances with a shiny new piece of technology that people kind of fell out of love with because everything escalated far too quickly. This generation now has been since the resurgence of the crash. So in the last 30 odd years, things have changed dramatically and grown at a pace far outweighing and exceeding anything that happened in the 80s. We talk about it now, and we continually talk about the video game industry being multiple times larger than both the movie and music industry combined, right? Which are both behemoths in their own right. So, yes, I can see stuff happening. Would it be a crash of a similar scale? No, I don't think it would be. Would it be a crash of a different scale? Right? Will we suddenly see bargain basement RAM? Right? If the AI bubble crashes, that's a different thing altogether, right? And suddenly that might buoy the market because suddenly you're having to buy. What was the article I saw the other day about these? There'd been because we talked about it. Google had announced their new algorithm for AI, right? Which works on not the AI training side of things, but one of the other side of AI. And so a number of manufacturers had seen a drop in their share price for AI, and actually as a result, some of the costs going down. It was still more expensive than it was this time last year, but the dropping, and there were videos of people who had stockpiled RAM going, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, it's over. We're screwed. I can see something similar to that happening, as technology and the technology and especially the development of the coding around AI changes and adapts. I could potentially see something happening there that might affect the video game industry in a different way. I just can't see it crashing in a similar way, or in any way similar to what happened before.
And I think that's why I chose the term reset, because I think it's too embedded now. Tech is too embedded with us. I think, we've said it before, digital pricing should be looked at of games, especially on consoles. So I think there needs to be a reckoning there, a reset there. The way the industry is going in terms of, the hardware, like we said with RAM, I think it's going to be more of a reset. The thing about the crash, it was a crash because, we learned today that it was only in America, and that was because they had literally all their eggs in one basket. It was the Atari, and that was it, and a number of other home consoles. Europe was untouched because of the PC. Japan was untouched because of Nintendo. That's all. These are worldwide now. There is almost, I don't think there is any almost system. There is no system specific region now, is there? There's more like Microsoft doesn't.
No,
do as well
not anymore. Like they used to be. Yeah.
So it's more, I think, a more resetting of it's going to be of costs and how the industry itself operates in terms of, like we said, these layoffs, etc. So I think it's more of a I'm going to just keep saying it. So it's just more of a reset on, I think, how the industry works rather than a crash from the
I would be very surprised, right? And I'm happy for people to comment on this, but I would be incredibly surprised, given the way things are looking right now, if the next generation of both PlayStation and hardware consoles was the last generation. I don't think, apart from a very select few people, are going to stomach the price that now we're looking at because of all the, the RAM crisis and everything else that's happened. I can't see many people stomaching $1,100-$1,200 console if that's what they come out at, right? Because someone's got to foot that bill somewhere. And yes, they will subsidize the pricing in some way, shape, or form, but they won't be able to subsidize, or they won't be able to swallow it all because it won't be a marketable product, because gaming is in a very different landscape now in terms of the subscription models and stuff that we have. So they're not making as much money off of first party sales and third party sales as they used to. I would be very surprised if the next 10 years doesn't see the death of Sony or PlayStation and Xbox as a console manufacturer and go down a very different path for that.
Yeah.
Whether they outsource the development of the consoles or whether it's maybe they merge and build something new, or maybe, I don't know. But I can very easily, the way things are right now, see them kind of going, unless technology changes, which it always can. But I can very much see it going, I don't want to play this game anymore. I think we've seen it from Xbox already recently.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think they give a shit. Right. Put Asher Sharma in post, talk about rebranding and repurposing the Xbox and, making it brilliant again. I don't think Microsoft's got any fucking interest in selling consoles past this next generation. And I think the only reason they're doing that is because they're already tied into a contract with AMD. I think if they had the choice right now, they go, oh, fuck it, let's go and be a publishing house. Right?
Yeah.
Which is heartbreaking because I fucking love an Xbox console, by the way.
Yeah, no, and I agree. But I also think, though, that the world the world is ready, as they say, for almost potentially console-less gaming at some point. Not yet. Not yet. I think it's like
you're saying this is an Xbox, Dan.
Yeah.
Careful. Didn't work.
You could be watching us on an Xbox. I think another generation will see it. Like you said, we've had on here stories about you'll rent PCs, you'll rent your laptops. The only thing I can see potentially also needing a reset, and this isn't just gaming though, it's how we consume our entertainment anyway, is I think there could be the biggest issue or fear could be there's going to be too much fatigue of subscription. I mean, we've said it as well. Look at TV, Apple, HBO Max, Disney, Paramount, Netflix. Then you've got in sports world, you've got over here, you've got Sky, you've got TNT. Some games are on Amazon. On terrestrial TV, we've got Game Pass, we've got PS Now, you've got Indie Pass, you've got. I think that could be the thing that potentially might be.
Didn't Amazon do one at some point?
Yeah, they did. Well, they've got Amazon Luna now, which I think is free.
Luna,
yeah, I think it's free. But Google Stadia, etc. I think that's the only maybe thing that also might face the reset that I'm talking about. Is that I think there could just be fatigue about how much subscription now.
It's a crazy world out there, Dan.
I think it's a fascinating thing, and I'm sure we're going to be coming back to this with new stories in the coming weeks.
I fucking hope it's fires, or we're out of a job.
Yeah, I think it will. Like you said, I think it will. It's just what's it going to look like in 1, 3, 5, 10 years. I think that's the thing.
We're absolutely sure we'll still be here telling people.
Yeah, moaning
or giving them our views,
or being
anyway.
Positive about it. Yeah,
one or the other.
Daniel,
one or the other.
Anything else from you?
No, just if you thank you for sticking with us. If you have, to old men moaning about video games, always a pleasure. If you have enjoyed what you've heard us say, you can hear brilliant episodes like this every other week from Dan. So please do like and subscribe, and tune in for the old shit with me in between that. It'll be fine.
No, it's every week is a classic. I'll big you up shortly. What I'll say is, if you, I was going to say, if you were involved in a video game crashing anyway.
Off camera, obviously.
I was going to say, if you're involved in a video game crashing anyway, but if you've got stories from that, if you're listening from across the ocean, if you had any involvement in any of the stores or retailers, You got any stories about it, or what's your view now on where you think our industry is? Look, Dan and I for the last 20 minutes have been sort of talking about what we think could or couldn't happen. Let us know your views on that. What I would say is if you're listening to this audio only, let me see if I can tease you to either watch the video on Spotify or YouTube, because Dan does put in a bloody lot of effort in producing what I think are brilliant videos that go up on those platforms.
Very kind of you to say.
No, honestly, I'd watch them. So
they're good. It's only because you're checking my mistakes.
But honestly, he puts in sort of great sort of clips, extra little bits that you are missing out if you're listening audio only. So if I can tease you or tempt you to go check out the video version of this episode on next week's or last week's, yeah, go do it. So
any weeks.
They're
all available.
Well, you subscribe now, so you should be able to see all of them easily. So, all right, look, thank you, Dan. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you next week for another episode of Gaming Views.